There is a law in biology so universal that it has held for every mammal ever studied. It says, the longer you have lived, the more likely you are to die this year. The risk climbs year over year in a steep and predictable curve. It holds for mice, elephants, whales, dogs, and you. It is so consistent that scientists treat it as close to a fundamental rule of being a mammal, the mathematical signature of aging itself. Every mammal obeys it, except, as far as decades of records can tell, one. It is not a whale, though whales live long. It is not an elephant. It is a nearly blind, hairless, wrinkled rodent the size of your thumb, living in tunnels under the deserts of East Africa, where a similar-sized mouse would be dead of old age at 3. This animal lives into its 30s, and for most of that long life, its risk of dying barely rises at all. The curve that governs every other mammal on Earth runs, in this species, strangely, stubbornly flat. Researchers have studied it for decades. They have found pieces of the answer, remarkable pieces. And the honest state of the science is this. Nobody fully understands why the naked mole rat lives the way it does. This is Primal Mysteries. Tonight, the mammal that renegotiated its own mortality. Let's establish the anomaly properly because the numbers are the mystery. Body size predicts lifespan in mammals with decent reliability. Small animals burn hot and die young. Big animals run slow and last. A mouse gets 2 to 3 years. On that scale, the naked mole rat, mouse-sized, should get roughly the same. Instead, individuals in research colonies live past 30. That's not a rounding error. That is an animal living roughly 10 times past what its body's size predicts, the equivalent of humans routinely reaching several centuries. And the deeper anomaly is the shape, not the length. In every ordinary mammal, mortality follows that rising curve, each year of life making the next statistically less likely. For most of a naked mole rat's life, that rise is barely detectable. The animals do eventually decline. The queen's reproduction slows in time. Age does finally arrive. But the schedule every other mammal keeps, this one has somehow torn up. For years, researchers struggled to even document its aging because the animals refused to visibly do it. An anomaly this large is never one trick. And sure enough, when scientists went looking, they found not one impossible thing in this animal, but several, each a clue, none of them the full answer. Clue 1. The cancer that doesn't come. Most lab rodents die with tumors. Cancer is practically the default ending. Across decades and thousands of naked mole rats studied worldwide, confirmed cancers amount to a bare handful. Part of the mechanism has been found. Their cells enforce an extreme version of contact inhibition, the stop-dividing signal that crowded cells send, applying it earlier and far more firmly than ours do. And their tissues are rich in an unusually heavy form of a molecule called hyaluronan, which appears to reinforce that stop signal. The break whose failure defines cancer is, in this animal, doubled down. A rodent that has quietly solved cancer resistance is clue 1. It is not the answer, because cancer-free is not the same as ageless. Something more is going on. Clue 2. 18 minutes without air. Deprive any mammal of oxygen and its brain begins dying within minutes. There are no exceptions. Except in laboratory conditions, naked mole rats have survived total oxygen deprivation for around 18 minutes and recovered without apparent damage. The mechanism, when it was uncovered, sounded like a misprint. Their cells switch fuel. Glucose metabolism needs oxygen, so when the air fails, their cells shift to burning fructose, through a pathway plants use, dormant in other mammals. The animal drops into a low emergency metabolism, outlasts the crisis, and switches back. Why would that exist? Because their world, sealed tunnels, crowded bodies, thin, stale air, runs out of oxygen routinely. The tunnels demanded it, but metabolic flexibility that profound raises an obvious question for the aging mystery. An animal that can throttle its own metabolism that precisely may be wearing itself out on a completely different schedule. A clue, not a solution. Clue 3, the alarm that never rings. Those same tunnels are heavy with carbon dioxide, which turns tissue acidic, and acid causes mammals pain. So does capsaicin, the chili pepper burn, through overlapping wiring. Naked mole rats respond to neither. The specific pain channels that tunnel life would trigger constantly have been quietly modified, muted by evolution. Because a lifelong alarm carries no information and burns energy for nothing. Notice the pattern forming across all three clues. This is an animal whose biology has been ruthlessly retuned, system, by one of the harshest homes any mammal ever chose. Crowded, dark, airless, acidic, inescapable. Everything strange about the naked mole rat traces back to the tunnel, which makes the central mystery sharper, not softer. Plenty of animals live in terrible places. None of the others stopped aging on schedule. What did the tunnel do to this one that it did to nothing else? Here is where the honest scientists stand, and this channel always tells you where that is. The pieces found so far, the reinforced cellular breaks, the fructose switch, the silenced pain wiring, unusually stable proteins, repair systems still being mapped, are all real physical mechanisms. Each one is studied intensely. No combination of them yet adds up to a full explanation of the flat mortality curve. The naked mole rat has become one of the most scrutinized animals in the entire science of aging precisely because the question remains open. If this one hooked you, the next mystery is its equal. The animal humans have relied on for 3,000 years, whose most famous ability still has no confirmed explanation. That video's on your screen right now, and the full series is linked in the description below. Subscribe to Primal Mysteries for the science nobody has finished explaining every week. And tell me in the comments, do you think the aging answer when it comes will be one mechanism or 100 small ones? The researchers themselves are split, so your guess is legitimate. See you in the next mystery.